So even after today's video, of course, you are still allowed to think these things. I mean, it's your life. Pretty sure that's what Bon Jovi was singing about. As AEW is on a tear right now, though, all of a sudden these same old conversations do prop up where people point their fingers going, well, I think this and this is most definitely true. When actually, what I think we should do is sit down in a room, kind of like we're doing now, and have an educational and intellectual discourse that's much better than throwing mud, unless of course you're in some kind of mud throwing contest. So I am Simon Miller, and I think we should do that right now. So here's 15 misconceptions about AEW that may not be true. Number 15, Kenny Omega isn't presented as a big enough star. Now there is some truth to that, in the sense you could get Kenny Omega every single title in the company and allow him to Goldberg all of his opponents, and I would still be like, I don't know, man, we probably could give him a little bit more, because the truth of the matter is Kenny Omega is a generational talent. Once he has retired, you're never going to see another guy like him. When you do follow through his AEW career, though, I actually think we are massively underestimating it. Because at first he was playing sort of like the pseudo babyface when he felt like Hangman Adam Page, and that was all designed to allow Kenny Omega to go mega heel when he was totally insane, before doubling back round on this and losing that world championship to Hangman Adam Page in order to create some kind of synergy and to tell you, oh hi, we are telling long-term stories, and actually they're pretty flipping good. I mean, Hangman's coronation at Full Gear 2021 was a wonderful telling to the audience. By the way, we are going to make you feel good and sure you feel warm and fuzzy in your tum-tum, and Kenny was just on fire that evening. So certainly don't say, oh my gosh, we've never had the Kenny Omega from New Japan. Go and watch this performance. It is really, 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 really good. He then took some time off to deal with injuries before he came back for a little bit until Brawl Out happened and he had to go home again. But when he was back in early 2023, he was presented as the guy. So he was taken on for Kingo, everyone was like, oh my gosh, it's Kenny Omega versus Vikingo. When he was taken on Will Ospreay, everyone was like, oh my gosh, it's Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay. He even did this with Chris Jericho too, in a totally different way, because they teamed up. Now, a few people thought that was a little bit confusing, but the whole idea was Chris Jericho was teaming with Kenny Omega. That just went to show the star power Kenny did have. You couldn't pull that off of anybody. Like if it was me, people would be like, oh, this is stupid. Who's the bald guy? Bald life. People then get really weird and say, well, Kenny Omega needs to dress more like a star. I don't care how somebody dresses. And in fact, I'd much rather, if you were trying to play an authentic babyface, you dressed like your authentic self. Like, I understand the idea of a suit and all of that, but if you're trying to be different and you're trying to stand out in your own way, well, it actually makes more sense to do that with your clothes too. So from my vantage point, that never made Kenny any less of a star, to use that word again, and he just has aura. I know that's a ridiculous 2025 word, but whether he was in New Japan or whether he was in AEW, every single time he walked to the ring, you could feel it in your bones. We are all in for a treat. That is my explanation of a star. More recently, there was some extra noise as well when he did return from diverticulitis, so people saying, oh my gosh, he should be the world champion again. But Omega himself talked about this on the Wrestling Observer Live podcast. He doesn't feel like he can get to that level anymore, and he needs crazy recovery time after he does do a match. So it makes more sense that he slots in kind of in the middle of the card and just adds to the overall power of whatever show you're watching. Thank goodness for that as well, because screw the hierarchy, I'd rather he was healthy. But the fact of the matter is, AEW today would not be AEW without Kenny Omega and all the magic that he brought to the company. I mean, you could even say without Ken, there wouldn't be an All Elite Wrestling to begin with. When you kind of look at it that way, well, he's a pretty damn flippin' big star. Number 14, Mercedes Moné has creative control. I mean, for goodness sake, I did a whole video about this because he got so out of control, and I will reiterate my first point from that one here as well. Who the flub cares? Let's say Mercedes Moné does have creative control, which she doesn't, by the way. I'll get to that in just 1 second. I just hope she books herself in really good matches and I can enjoy it. And if they suck, all right, I can step outside into my real life and go, man, I have actual problems here. I'm not going to worry about that. Also, do you think in 2025, after everything has happened with other people that have had this in their contract, Tony Khan or Triple H is agreeing to that? No. No, they're not. They're not idiots. They understand. They wouldn't let it happen. I mean, the fact that Mercedes Moné lost it all in 2025 totally disproves this anyway, because you would think, what, her big plan was, hey, Tone, here's the deal. I'm going to win on all these smaller shows and all these smaller pay-per-views, but when we get to AEW equivalent of WrestleMania, I think I should lose. Nobody who actually wants creative control would say that. They'd be like, I'd like to win all the time, see Hulk Hogan. So it stands to reason what actually happened is they sat down and went, wouldn't it be great if I did go on a massive winning streak, and then timeless Tony Storm whoops my ass at All In. Can you believe it worked? I mean, the saddest part about all of this is the people that are actually moaning about this bought a Mercedes Moné in-character interview where she joked that she did have this in her deal. I mean, come on, man. Talk about falling for a hook, line, and sinker. If you are actually watching that thing and believing there's an ounce of truth to it, well, I've got a wonderful Ponzi scheme to sell you. And listen, I am totally sure that Mercedes does have input into her storylines, but 2 points. 1, that's not the same as creative control and Tony Khan would still have the final say. And 2, all top guys get this. Every single one, no matter what the company is. Roman Reigns convinced WWE to hold off Cody Rhodes finishing his story for an entire year. And now we can look back in hindsight and go, good work, Tribal Chief. You got it 100% right. And do you think The Undertaker didn't have a chat with Vince McMahon here and there and said, listen, Vince, I get you want to go in this direction, but how about this? And Stone Cold Steve Austin was all about it. Honestly, you can find so many stories of creative people going up to Steve and saying, Steve, what do you think of this? And Austin going, nope, I don't like it. And he wasn't trying to be a jackass. He just understood his character and he was trying to protect himself. Go and read all the stuff about Sable, and they teased that on TV, well, one day the Rattlesnake was like, nah, this is crap. So the whole chat is just silly, and the truth of the matter is that Mercedes is a massive star in AEW, so she will have access to certain privileges based on the experiences and the stuff she's already done in the business. Words to that effect. It's no different to movies either, by the way. Do you think Leonardo DiCaprio auditions for movies anymore? Of course he doesn't. He broke through. So I'm sorry you don't like Mercedes Moné, which you're perfectly allowed to, by the way. No one's going to make you. But to fall into this trap, well, it's utterly ridiculous. Number 13, All Friends Wrestling. Thankfully, we moved on from this now, but it was a term that was used when AEW was first brought into this world, that apparently if you were friends with Kenny Omega or Cody Rhodes or the Young Bucks, you would just be hired, because why the flub not? I mean, for starters, I don't really see the issue with this, in the sense everybody in life, no matter what their job, does it. I mean, you can work in an HR department and a role comes loose and you ring up your mate and say, you're not going to believe there's a position, I'll put in a good word. What makes it even odder is that none of these people were ever treated like forces. Like, do you remember Michael Nakazawa and Brandon Cutler? They were basically stooges for the elite, and they would always get involved in the comedy spots. And listen, as a man who is in wrestling in terms of doing it, some wrestlers are like, yeah, I don't want myself to look like an idiot, so you're going to have to go out there and find individuals that would, and those two are totally cool. So it really was Kenny Omega just knowing some folk and saying, hey man, we should bring them in. And it was the same with John Moxley and Marina Shafir. So many people are like, oh man, it's just because they're buddies. And ever since then, Marina has come across like an absolute warrior that you don't want to mess with. I mean, she's been an integral part of the Death Rider. Even Jake Hagar was just the muscle in all of Chris Jericho's groups that sometimes wore a hat. And even Luther. You can get mad at Luther, but I got 3 words for you. Timeless Tony Storm. Nobody could have played that role better. Even the Jack Perry heel push happened because of CM Punk and nothing to do with the Young Bucks. And actually, that's a great example of this, because it kind of didn't work and it kind of didn't click in the way that everybody was expecting to. And for a good old while, Jack Perry hasn't been on TV, because I can only assume that Tony Khan was like, listen, we need to come up with something new, go home and we'll have a chat. You also have to put together some sort of a roster with the talent that is available, which is what AEW did in 2019. And look at the dudes that came in. Eddie Kingston, awesome. Penta, awesome. Phoenix, awesome. Orange Cassidy, awesome. I mean, the list goes on, so this one is just silly. Of course, you're going to reach out to people you are familiar with because you have a relationship. It's not like anybody went and dropped the ball. Number 12, the Malakai Black chat. So I suppose the misconception is that Tony Khan fumbled Malakai Black, or at least that's what the WWE hardened fans shouted when he returned to WWE as Aleister Black. I actually don't think any of these things are accurate. In fact, I actually think Malakai was presented as some kind of warrior of death alongside Brody King and Buddy Matthews, and some of the trios matches they had were totally awesome, and they had that crazy atmosphere in their spooky entrance. They were just a very enjoyable and entertaining part of Dynamite. And sure, he never really broke out as a top tier contender at the main event level, but he still had all that stuff with the TNT title and Cody Rhodes, which I personally quite like. And he also had that match within a match, when him and Kenny Omega basically went off on their own, even though technically it was a trios bout. I mean, that thing is still flipping excellent. And sure, maybe there was some hesitance to lose, but nobody can actually prove that, like it's just hearsay on the internet. And it was also meant to be spooky wooky, so you don't want to get beat too much, because otherwise you'd just be a guy walking around acting like they got magical powers or something, and you get in the ring and get your ass kicked. And even if he did say no to certain things, it still felt to me like Tony Khan worked with him a lot. I mean, there were a couple of absences here and there, but he'd always return to TV, and then he'd always be in a big profile. It's not like he was ever jobbed out or anything. So I think this was probably just two people trying to figure out their creative, maybe not being entirely on the same page, and then they figured out what they could do, or they had a compromise. Welcome to the world of work. So it just feels like a bigger conversation started here because of speculation that was being thrown out outside of the company. And yeah, again, maybe he should have had a main event run, but he didn't. You can say that about a lot of individuals. I don't think it needed to become the conspiracy theory that it actually did. Number 11, the Ricky Stark stuff. So I don't really know what to say, and I think more of us need to do this, because everything based on the AEW versus Ricky Stark's conversation is nothing but speculation. Like, there's no evidence. And when you ask Tony Khan, he was always like, nope, had a great time working with Ricky Starks. When you talk to Ricky Starks, he's basically like, well, I'm not going to talk about that. Let's just draw a line under it. It's always other people that run out there and go, well, he said this, so it must mean this, which then becomes fact, which is nonsense. But if you watch Ricky Starks on the Cody Rhodes or the Chris Van Vliet podcast, he kind of seems quite blasé about it. Like, quite clearly something happened he wasn't entirely happy with, but he's moved on, he's in NXT, he's doing good work. He seems pretty happy. So whatever the truth may be, both have decided to keep it professional. So once again, well, it kind of ties into the Malakai Black stuff. They probably did have a disagreement at work, and then you go off on your separate pathways. It's not a wrestling thing. It's not a football thing. It's not a soccer thing. It's not an NFL thing. It's life. Sometimes you go to your place of employment and you can't really get on the same page. The word fumble then gets used a lot again, but I think that is massively unfair, because not only was Ricky Starks an awesome TNT champion, but some of the matches he's had. Do you remember that strap bout with Bryan Danielson? That thing is absolutely crazy. And also a bit like torture, like it massively goes off the rails. So ultimately, if I were to hazard a guess, I would just say there was a fracture in their relationship. And of course, that's where the sad part comes in. Ricky Starks did vanish from TV, and you never want that. I don't think all of a sudden you need to start making mountains out of molehills. I'm sure Rick was a little bit like, oh, this is totally unfair. But look, it worked out in the end, and we always see this in wrestling. You can go all the way back to WCW, when talent and management fell out and they butted heads. I mean, it sort of ties into this all friends wrestling thing again. You can be buddies, but everybody is trying to get ahead. And if all of a sudden that does fall down a little bit, well, you're going to find yourself in a curious position. Mostly, I just hope both guys are happy right now and enjoying what they are doing. So it was a talking point, I understand that, because we wanted to see Ricky Starks on TV. When you took a step back from it, don't think it was that big of a deal. Number 10, Tony Khan doesn't book big guys. So for a while, sure, I think there may have been an element of truth of this, and even Kenny Omega talked about it on that Wrestling Observer Live podcast. He said, yeah, maybe at one point we didn't have big men slapping man meat. That's not the case now. And then he went and listed a bunch of beasts. Because yeah, it is totally different in 2025. And I'll start with one of the best of the bunch, Samoa Joe. Not only does he have a legendary status given he has been in the business for so long, but the man can do no wrong. And I genuinely think he's one of the best wrestlers ever. There's also Brody King, who kind of loses all the time, but still manages to get himself so over because he's such a talented wrestler. And this powerhouse Will Hobbs, you can tell that AEW is kind of allowing him to bubble under the surface, and eventually we are going to pull the trigger. Miro was also awesomely used too at the start of his Redeemer gimmick, though admittedly that did go bad. And if you want a big man that's just going to kill people, well, let me introduce you to Bobby Lashley. Remember that Dynamite before All In, when he got his leg destroyed by a chair? Don't worry about it. He just shook it off, and he was good to go again. Me personally too will always take some extra beats, because again, I love big men slapping man meat. But if you watch Dynamite right now as me talking to you, this is way better balanced. So you do get your big men, you get your flippy men, you get your technical men. That's what you always want for wrestling. It's meant to be a variety show. Number 9, AEW wrestlers don't sell. Well, you don't watch. You just don't. You heard one person on the internet saying it and you jumped in to join mob mentality, because all you have to do is watch one episode of AEW Dynamite and you will see at least one wrestler sell. And all you gotta do is watch Kenny Omega in any match he's had following his diverticulitis. He acts like his stomach is about to explode. You genuinely get worried for him like he's your dad. I suppose it is the so-called party match that really annoys these people. And listen, I get it, I understand. Everybody goes at 100 miles per hour, but you can't take this form and just paste it across the entire promotion. And also in those party matches, you do still get people selling. I also have 2 points to this, the first of which will annoy you, but what can we do? Wrestling is predetermined, so sometimes we should sit down and go, we can be quite creative here and do whatever we want, so why don't we do a match that goes 100 miles an hour with people popping up and down and left and right and doing all kinds of things? Like, as long as it's entertaining, it's wrestling. That's why you watch to have fun. My second point is, what is the difference between that and when WWE does its bump and feed approach? Like, all of a sudden the babyface has all the power in the world and the heel is going down, they're getting up again, they're going down, they're getting up again. And look, it totally works, because listen to the fan reaction. But it's the same kind of a deal, it's the same kind of thought process, you're just trying to light up the crowd with joy. WWE also absolutely does this too in its mega main events. Go and watch anything that happens at WrestleMania, you get kickouts all over the place. And really, it is just a device to elicit bigger reactions. And you don't have to like it, that can be the kind of wrestling you do turn off and go, no, I'm not interested. But it's still a part of wrestling, and I'm happy that someone's doing it. Also, just go and watch Hangman Adam Page or Jon Moxley on that Dynamite. After all, in 2025, they were walking around like they were about to die. They were most definitely selling. Number 8, all AEW fans are freaks. So somebody actually said this to me the other day, and I pondered to myself, what does that even mean? So I asked, and this person described it to me as, well, you just cheer for anything. Doesn't matter what's going on in the ring, you just make noise. And I was like, oh yeah, what a burden. I'm enjoying my wrestling, sucks to be me. The point is that they accuse AEW of not actually creating this atmosphere, and the fans arrive at the building and decide, well, we're just gonna make noise regardless. But that is like a paradox, because the reason the fans are making the noise is because they like what AEW is doing, and over the last few years they have faith in the product, and therefore they want to cheer. Kind of feel like I need to fall down. I mean, really, we can compare it to Dominic Mysterio in WWE. We boo him because it's fun to boo him, and he does funny reactions, which then tell our brains we should boo him some more. I mean, it's pantomime, man. That's the whole idea. Where it really loses me entirely, though, is when people go, oh man, you're dumb if you're doing this. And that is absolute poppycock. If you have spent your hard-earned money and you are so excited to see a show, you're going to make as much noise as possible. Well, as far as I'm concerned, you're winning at life. I would argue that Tony Khan has just figured out what kind of wrestling his main fan group does want to see, and he's catering with that. And it doesn't always work this way. Do you remember when the Death Riders kind of fell off a little bit? People were not happy, and they sat on their hands. It's not like they were reacting regardless. Now, I'm not trying to pretend there isn't a cult-like entity to all of this. That goes for all of professional wrestling, and really any entertainment medium on the world. You go look at the Marvel and DC threads, those people nuts. But ultimately, there is nothing wrong with somebody finding a way to actually enjoy the thing they have spent their hard money on, which I just said 2 seconds ago, so why am I saying it again? But it's not a criticism, it's not even a misconception, it's just a really stupid thing to say. These people are happy, and the world can be so crap, let them have it. At the same time, though, once again, to use more evidence, I have watched many a Dynamite when the atmosphere is totally dead. So no, this isn't a given, and it isn't, it happens all the time because you're a bunch of freaks. It depends on the wrestling they're seeing in the ring. Number 7, too many botches. Oh, I hate this so much. I hate that word botch because it has such a negative connotation to it. It's a mistake, it's an error, and dare I say, if you are flying around the ring at 120 miles per hour, you're probably gonna slip here and there. What we should be saying is, how do they actually not do this for 95% of the match? If it was me, I'd be falling on my face and crying like tears. I also actually like a botch to use that word because it makes wrestling feel more real. This is where I get confused again. You have people saying that AEW is too fake, and then you get something that is real where somebody slips up, whatever you want to call it, and then we yell at them for that too. It's like, well, they can't win then. Either it does come across as a real life situation and we hate it, or it feels totally, I don't know, like Dreamland cartoon and we hate that too. I mean, you may as well just go to sleep. Also, I just don't think we should criticize wrestlers for this at all. Of course, you should point it out because wrestling is super dangerous and that's why only a select few do it. If you do make a mistake, you are quite literally this close from death. See people fall on their heads all the time. That ain't cool. It's also not exclusive to AEW either, because you see it in WWE, you see it in New Japan, you see it in Ring of Honor, you see it in TNA, and that's mostly because in 2025, wrestlers are taking more risks than ever. That's where the saying comes from, risk versus reward. If you are gonna do something crazy, and you do flub it up, well yeah, you better protect yourself because it could go bad. So as far as I'm concerned, we should be respecting this more, not laughing going, that person botched that and then put it on the internet. I think that's a little bit offensive, to be completely honest with you. They're only doing this for our entertainment. Number 6, too many matches are overly choreographed and rely on kickouts. Now, I'm not trying to pretend that we do not get choreographed matches in AEW, but you also get choreographed matches in WWE. Go and watch most things that go down in NXT. You can see that they practice that. I don't mind. I have no problem with it, especially when it's supposed to be a performance center brand. These people are trying to learn the ropes. If that's the way you're going to feel comfortable and confident, good. Do it. Far better than that than going out and having a bad match on TV. As for the too many kickouts thing, I'm sorry, I'm not accepting that. Go and watch any WrestleMania main event dating back all the way to WrestleMania 17. The Rock would kick out stunners, and then Stone Cold would kick out Rock bottoms, and then Stone Cold would kick out stunners, and The Rock would kick out Rock bottoms, and all you had to do was look at the 50,000 people in attendance and go, they're having the best time. It's probably something that all promotions could use going forward. And admittedly, we did spam that button, but somehow in 2025 it still works. Also, choreographed wrestling, if we are going to use that ridiculous term, is a form of wrestling. You're allowed to turn it off, but AEW is doing nothing different than the independent scene wasn't doing, and the independent scene usually tells you, this is the direction of travel when it comes to sports entertainment, and that's why it's awesome that AEW embraced it, because it means it feels nothing like WWE, who does choreographed matches too, but in their own way. I don't want those two entities coming together. I want them to be original creations. So it's just not criticism. It's just not. And also, wrestling is choreographed. I wrestle. I don't want to ruin the game, but you already know this. You go backstage, you meet your opponent, and you say, how should we start? How should we finish? Then the bit in the middle, you kind of call in the ring. That's wrestling. That's all it is. So you're actually getting mad at the thing that you love. Number 5, AEW wasted Okada. Now look, if you like the presentation of Okada in New Japan, fine, I get it. You're allowed to be a little bit mad about this, but it's not a steadfast rule, because while I actually think Okada in New Japan is one of the best wrestlers ever, the bizarre transformation he went through when he arrived in AEW, I'm gonna say this quietly, that's my favorite version of the character. And actually that is the most important word there, character, because he was quite stoic in New Japan, but when he arrived as part of the Elite, this guy was absolutely hilarious, just having a whale of a time, and because he was having fun, that came out of the TV and smacked me in the head, and I was having fun too. Remember when he was in the producer's chair and he cut off Max Caster's rap? It's still genuinely one of my favorite moments to happen in modern day wrestling. I watched it about 42 times. That says more about me than anything else. But my gosh, I love it. I also kind of think as a performer, Okada probably saw this. Oh my gosh, I can try something different here. And it's like an actor that gets typecast in a movie. If all of a sudden you do get a new role and that allows you to show off your acting chops, you embrace the idea. And I think that's what Okada did too. Also, he still comes across like a superstar. Remember when AEW changed his theme song and everyone had a meltdown? I don't think that happens if you do not hold this person in high regard. So I've got no problem with it whatsoever, and I actually think it would have been lazier just to take New Japan Okada and throw him into AEW. And also, we've still got time. He ain't that old. He'll probably bring it back before long when he does go on his babyface run. I ain't worried about it. Number 4, the feeling is coming back. So this is a phrase that Tony Khan used over and over again, and the fans got mad, or I suppose the anti-AEW people got mad, because they were like, no, there's no feeling coming back. But it's actually Tony Khan was right, because I stand here in mid-2025, right after All In 2025, everybody is having a really good time with AEW. So yeah, the feeling is back. And the misconception of this comes in the form that it will go away again. And it will happen with WWE and TNA, who are on upward swing at the moment, because wrestling is cyclical. Sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down, sometimes it's bang in the middle, and you kind of feel that as fans. Like, how many times have you watched WrestleMania? You're like, oh my gosh, WWE is the best thing ever. Then that kind of trails off a bit. Then AEW does something cool, like, oh my gosh, AEW is the best thing ever. And you kind of look at yourself like, wait a minute, I'm experiencing multiple emotions. That's pro wrestling. It happens with movies too, like you can watch a bunch of comedies and think they're great, then all of a sudden you'll be knee deep in horror. That's why you never need to get deep down in the ditches when it comes to these sort of a theme. I mean, it really comes down to the fact that wrestling never ends. There's no off season. You do get Dynamites and Raws 52 times a week every single year, which is totally nuts. You just have to accept the good with the bad sometimes. There isn't one human person on this planet that could be creative for that much content. There really is no feeling, and there is no like, oh my gosh, we're on fire right now. It is just what it is. In 6 months, it will more likely be the opposite. Number 3, AEW needs to appeal to casual fans. Why? Why does it need to appeal to casual fans? Are you a casual fan that wants to watch AEW? Well, you're perfectly allowed. But I would hazard a guess that people are saying this are hardcore fans, and what do you care that a casual fan does? Unless you're financially invested in AEW and you'd like to see an increase in business, I don't see why this is a problem at all. And actually, because I watch wrestling from my vantage point only, because I am me, I don't want casual fans to start watching AEW. That's not true, of course I do, because I want them to be successful. But I kind of think when you do have a niche these days, it does allow you to do more crazy things, like that Texas Death Match at All In 2025. Now, when Hangman stabbed John Moxley with the fork, I wouldn't necessarily say that was to my taste, but the fact they had the balls to do it, that's what I like to see. Well, no, I didn't like to see it, but really, that's old school wrestling. People always go, oh my God, I can't believe they're doing it. Wrestling would never do something like this. Go back to the late 70s, man, and watch some of those territorial promotions. You will fall on the floor. But really, it doesn't need to appeal to anybody, because right now they are financially successful and they do seem to be getting bigger every single year. I mean, a casual fan could still find AEW and enjoy it. I actually think you're insulting people when you say that. It's like when people go, oh no, if you make a Mario game, it's got to be aimed at a kid, so you've got to simplify it. No, children understand what a good and a bad game is. They just happen to love Mario, so somebody should be able to figure it out. Do you ever play Super Mario 64? That didn't feel like it was designed for a younger demographic. It felt like it was designed for everyone. And of course, like I say, I'm only kidding. I want all wrestling promotions, including WWE and AEW, to continue to grow. But they do not need to find a casual fan base. Or, my alter argument to that is they have got a casual fan base because people see it on the internet all of the time. Like, even if it is a niche, so what? The whole world in 2025 is built on niches. Now I don't know what we're talking about. This just feels like such a lame argument. Number 2, TNA is about to beat AEW. Alright, maybe it is, but I don't know where you've got that logic from because the business metrics tell you otherwise. But this is a terrible thing to do because you are now insulting both of those companies. Because TNA, once again, as I talked to you from the summer of 2025, is on such an upward swing. But still, when you look at the money, they pale in comparison to AEW. And I hope that AEW continues to grow. And I hope that TNA continues to grow as well. Can you imagine if we had 3 awesome brands that we could check out when we act and please, and that would help the wrestlers and increase costs around the place? That sounds absolutely fantastic. So really, this is just tribalistic nonsense as people pretending, oh my gosh, well, if TNA pulled this many people and AEW only pulled this many people, it must mean this. It doesn't mean jack shit, man. It all comes down to the bottom line if you want to talk about how big a company are. And the truth of the matter is, AEW is just bigger than TNA, whereas TNA continues to grow. How is this a bad thing? How have we made this negative? We are living in such a cool wrestling timeline, and we're always looking for the nonsense, dude. I mean, no one's ever going to be able to compete with WWE because they're too big, but everybody else should just be having a ball. And I am. Screw the 3 words above the building. I just love the product. Number 1, AEW doesn't tell stories. Anyone that says that these days to me just isn't watching AEW. I mean, the Death Rider story that did culminate at all in 2025 had one of the best finishes because we had invested so much time into it. Like John Moxley, whoever that is, John Moxley, quite literally being hanged and tapping out because he didn't want to die as Hangman finally revealed that world title from the briefcase. That made me feel emotional, man. And you had the side quest that it was Swerve Strickland that came out to help Hangman at the end. It's flipping great, man. Maybe one of the best tales they've ever told. Speaking of that too, you also had Toni Storm versus Mariah May, which was a year-long story that had so many twists and turns. And there are so many other ones that people seem to want to ignore as well, deliberately of course. And we mentioned the big one, Hangman Adam Page, the Young Bucks, and Kenny Omega. That not only resulted in one of the best tag team matches we've ever seen, but also resulted in Kenny Omega going heel before dropping that belt to Hangman. That was all the way back in 2021, and by that point AEW was only 2 years old. MJF is always involved in these big kind of angles and narratives as well that he kind of helps craft along with Tony Khan. So what are you talking about? They don't have stories. I understand they have a lot of random matches, but by this point AEW has made it very clear that's just the way we're going to do things, and if you don't like it, don't worry about it. But you can still sit down and go, I wonder what direction this angle is going to go in today. And then you get a cliffhanger and you have to tune in next week. And not all the stories are good, that would be unrealistic, but the big ones they have done flub me sideways great. I mean, speaking of Maxwell Jacobs Freeman, everything he did with CM Punk was like feud of the year stuff. And while it kind of did go all over the place for a little while, the Young Bucks being EVPs still had its moments. Plus, as everything was Swerve and the stuff that he's been involved in, I mean, you can really take every major player in AEW and sit down with someone and explain their stories. So of course, they tell stories. How would they not tell stories? How would they still be around in 2025 if every single thing they did was out of the blue? That doesn't make any sense. Just to go back to what I just said, it means you're not watching, man. Turn on the TV, check it out, and if you don't like it, that's fine. But it does exist. I've seen it. Now, of course, somebody will be mad and go, oh, Simon, you just want to get a job at AEW, even though I've been doing this job for 9 years, and no one's ever offered me a job there or WWE. Also, I'd take that job, and I'd be the first one to tell you I'm an honest Alan or an honest Harry. Neither of them work. The point is this. Leave me a comment below and just get mad at me, get that anger out. It's good for you. Like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Click the video on the screen, which will be me talking about more professional wrestling. Otherwise, my friends, it's boiling in here. I've sweated through my brand new t-shirt. Pro Wrestling Tees, by the way. You can buy this. Take care. See you soon.